So thank you for joining the session. Trends in mobility, the world isn't flat. One thing I really hope you leave this session with is some thought-provoking ideas, and also learn what we have done in the last year on mobility. A lot of exciting stuff, lots of announcements. We have 3 of my colleagues that are going to join me up on stage here to tell you all about that. But first, I'd like to start with a story. So I ask you, what do you see in this image? You see a horizon, some nice clouds, perhaps you feel like you're on a beach. It's stretching out infinite and flat. And for thousands of years, we as humans, across all of our cultures, the Greeks, the Indian dynasties, the ancient Egyptians, we all believed, by looking out at this, general population believed that the world was flat. And we were afraid of falling off the edges into the pit of dragons. And of course, we evolved to the belief we have today and the knowledge we have today that, of course, we live on a sphere. But for thousands of years, our ancestors looked out, no matter how high they got, no matter how many ships they seen go over the horizon, we didn't put it together as a general population. And even with this guy, in 240 BC, Eratosthenes of Cyrene. It only took me about a month to figure out how to say that. And I don't even know if I'm saying it right. So find me after and tell me, Kyle, it's Eratosthenes of something. So I'll call him the dude with the luscious beard, the DLB, because we love acronyms. And this guy, an ancient Greek mathematician, he measured the Earth's circumference using mathematics. And he had building blocks many years before him, like Copernicus and Galileo, Pythagoras. They had all sort of thought the world was round, but no one ever proved it. And in our research for the talk here, the dude with the luscious beard put some math to it and proved that the Earth was round. Now, for the next 2,000 years, most people kept the traditional belief that we lived on a flat Earth. Okay? We have to understand these times. We didn't have printing presses. We didn't have Google. So most scholars believed, of course, they all huddled in Greece and isolated pockets around the world, and they knew the truth, but to the masses, we believed that the Earth was flat. This was known as flat Earthism, and it was propagated throughout the Middle Ages, even up to Christopher Columbus times, even a little later. And the concept here, of course, that we didn't question this. It just was passed down from generation to generation in stories. Don't go too far east, you're going to meet a dragon. And by church teachings. But the point here is that people didn't challenge it. There was proof, and people didn't challenge it. So we looked out at this beautiful skyline as our ancestors and our humans as general, seeing the curves even happening on the left and right, didn't put it together. Now let's give the people who lived during this time frame the benefit of the doubt, right? Perhaps they had bigger things to worry about. Disease, famine, surviving till you're like 30 years old and not dying. Maybe saber-toothed tigers roaming. And at the end of the day, we didn't really have visual proof so that the masses could understand where we live and our place in the galaxy, even though the DLB had lots of math to prove it. And it was surprisingly accurate. What startled me in the research for this talk was that a lot of us believed, and printed in textbooks up into the 70s, the 1970s, is that Christopher Columbus, his goal was to prove the Earth was round. Some textbooks actually taught that. And of course, Christopher Columbus's goal was to get a shorter route to Asia for trade, and he ran into America. He didn't believe that the DLB's calculations were correct, or else he would have realized there's a big landmass in between there. Anyways, sidebar. The point here is that the people, for thousands of years, perhaps didn't have visual proof. They had some dude with luscious beard in Greece who had a bunch of papers, but they had to see it. So when do you think we seen it? Visual proof for everyone. It was 1946. We strapped a camera to a V-2 rocket, shot it in the atmosphere, took a picture. Unequivocal visual proof. This is over 2,000 years since the dude with the luscious beard proved it. And fast forward another 23 years to 1969, where Apollo 11 gave us the first holistic picture of the Earth from the moon. For those that believe that we actually went to the moon. I heard there's some conspiracy theories around that. And then in 1972, we got the beautiful picture that we see in most of our textbooks today, the blue marble. Amazing photo. This was only taken 43 years ago. Most of us in this room were infants. Perhaps some of us have been in automation that long. If you've been in automation this long, please retire. But the point is that all this history being said, it's pretty recent. So for almost 2,000 years, over 2,000 years, there's naysayers, publications, saying the dude with the luscious beard was wrong. And trust me, this has something to do with industrial mobility, okay? So just keep with me. So let's put this in perspective. Let's go back to what we all know in this room and on the live stream, the Purdue Enterprise reference model, or architecture. We're in automation. We have nice clean layers, starting in level 0, going to level 1, level 2, and 4. In level 0, your I/Os sit there, your end devices. Level 1, you've got your controllers and HMIs, some EOIs. Level 2, you've got your SCADA systems, HMIs, and then moving up into manufacturing operations, whether it be execution systems or enterprise manufacturing intelligence systems. And this model's been pervasive since the late 80s. And where mobile sits in there is these clean, nice layers. And we've had mobile, quotation fingers mobile, for quite some time. Whether or not we use terminal services, remote desktop protocol, you could easily swap out that iPhone for a Palm Treo that we used back in the day. VNC, when I was doing controls implementation, that was the #1 thing we threw on all our boxes to get access. And of course, up to level 3, we started, over a decade ago, trying to replicate thick client technology with Ajax, ActiveX, into web browsers. And the goal with all these solutions were just to replicate the functionality and get them into operators' hands and engineers' hands for remote support. And most of these fell short of the true thick client experience. We all couldn't do certain things in this architecture, these products. Now, don't get me wrong. These products have allowed us to create more sustainable, better deployed systems, and they have their place. But for mobility, I like to ask people, has this increased your workforce, their efficiency by 1%, by 10%? Are you putting all this in every single worker's hands in your plant or your organization? And generally the answer is no. I got one login for the whole system, and the guy can take the plant down if anybody else knows about it. So we call this flat earthism mobility. It has its place. But for us, we're taking 20-year-old technologies and shoving them into the latest and greatest device. And in this flat earthism model, it enables operators and engineers in the single-digit percentage performance improvements. And I like to always say, these systems are really designed to sit behind and look at 24/7 and react to the blinky lights that are happening on the screen. So if you're providing this technology, are you hanging iPads and iPhones on the operator's head as they walk around so they can see the blinky lights and react to the screen? So this flat earthism model doesn't work for mobility, okay? It works for extending systems, and it works for providing access. But for mobile, we have to do something different. We want to hit above 10% productivity gain for everyone in the plant, not just for 1 or 2 people. And last year at TechED, we launched something that was the equivalent of that picture from 1946, the V2 rocket picture that you see here. We launched VantagePoint Mobile. And this was a huge step forward for us at Rockwell, as well as our customers. We've had great feedback from the people who've adopted it, because it's starting to show them the capabilities of truly being mobile, enabling users in a new way. And we took a concerted effort to look at the user experience across the pieces of glass, meaning a 4-inch piece of glass, a phone, a user interacts with it in seconds. A tablet, they interact with it in minutes, and a desktop, it could be hours because it's a very immersive experience. This is called responsive design principles, and our customer feedback in the last year has been tremendously well of this direction. We're also doing things like storing profile data against the security model, rather than just using the security model for login. And of course, from a technical standpoint, we're using single-page apps. But the whole point here is that what we did was we proved with visual proof and with a real product that we can live in what we call the spherical Earth model. And in parallel, behind the scenes in our engineering group, we were developing something we call the Mobile Foundation Toolkit. This is something we typically we've never talked about it externally. This isn't something you buy. This isn't something you get from Rockwell. This is something we use internally. And this toolkit started a couple of years before we actually launched VantagePoint. We've got a really great group of engineers that are looking at technology all the time, and they selected HTML5, like many other players have done. And what they learned was that we had to add JavaScript to the tech stack and Bootstrap to provide an industrial level of thin client, and to enable users to do things interactively across the different pieces of glass or the different devices. We learned that HTML5 wasn't enough. We need to dive into using Angularjs, which, let's put this in perspective. HTML5, although not super bleeding edge, I like to call it bleeding edge for industry, but Angularjs is at version 1.4 and having alphas and betas, or alphas in 2.0. So you can look at this tech stack as bleeding edge. And this proved to us internally that 3 very important things. It proved to us that we could use this tech stack, first off, in a product and manifest it into VantagePoint Mobile. It proved our users were looking and wanting mobile products, user-first, mobile-first experiences that enabled them to do things they couldn't do before. You couldn't create an ad hoc display and have it stored against your profile. And you couldn't do it in a responsive way across any type of device. You also couldn't do it that's conducive for that 1-second interaction on a phone versus a tablet and a desktop. And the third thing it proved to us and our customers is that a 112-year-old company like Rockwell Automation could use, develop, and deliver a product using such great bleeding-edge technology for industry. And we've been hard at work evolving not only the toolkit, but VantagePoint Mobile in the last year. We've had some fantastic developments in the last year, and we have Damon Purvis, our global mobile product manager for VantagePoint, here to talk to you about it.
Thank you, Kyle. Another flat earthism is the idea that when you're given a reporting solution, typically it comes with 10 to 15 predefined reports. However, if for some reason your process changed and your now is not the same anymore, you need to bring that solution provider back, our system integrator, and he has to create new reports for you. And what's more, it probably wasn't designed for a mobile application. So when we were developing VantagePoint Mobile, we knew we need to go further than just allowing you to see the reports on your VantagePoint system. Because see, this device changes the way that you work and play. It should be designed that you'll be enabled to do things that you couldn't do before on your PC. So with VantagePoint Mobile, we endeavor to enable users to be more productive and also be able to create content that goes beyond what the actual solution provider gave them in the first place. So I'm going to show a video of how we're doing this with VantagePoint Mobile. As you can see, he's using his iPad to accept notifications, one of the primary functions of a mobile device. He's then linking in to see what triggered the notification. He's going to do some basic investigation, important. Now, for the flat Earth model, this is where you look in the dragon's mouth because you're at the edge of the Earth. But with VantagePoint, by enabling users, he can go a step further. He can do further investigation. By investigating deeper into the actual problem, this is making him more productive, and his organization is going to be able to save money. From here, he's going to be able to delve in and see who was operating the asset that triggered the KPI. He also is going to be able to see who was running the machine, as well as how much it's costing him by not fixing the KPI that triggered this notification. What this allows the user to do now is to be able to assign priority when he calls the technician to fix this problem. It also is going to allow him to give the technician who he needs to talk to find more general information. And he can now save this ad hoc trend to his mobile profile, and he can keep it private if he wants. So the next time he sees this notification, he knows how to solve it. What's more is when he gets back to his desk, it's going to allow him to access the same report. And what he can do on his desktop now is going to give him a fully immersed user environment that gives him more features, that he can add more context to that report that he created on his mobile device as he was walking through his manufacturing environment. As you can see from the display, he's going to create a textual visualization of the trend. So he can easily delve in and see who was running the asset throughout the whole day. Maybe he can see some trends. Maybe he sees that every time this operator logs in and uses the asset, this is when the machine goes out of spec. So we need to talk to that operator. He can also add things to this actual textual display, such as visual indications that he can easily delve in and determine when the machine actually went out of spec. He has the ability to show it even in narrow format as it showed before, or he can switch it to the actual wide format. So he can line things up and do further analysis. What is this doing? This is enabling the user to be more productive. See, when he's done with this trend, this actual new report, he can save this. And he can decide that not only am I the hero, I'm going to make all my colleagues heroes as well. When he saved this out, he can make this public, so he can share it with his colleagues. So when he's notified at 12 o'clock in the morning, he doesn't have to get up. The person that's on staff can actually solve the problem, therefore making the whole organization more productive and his company obviously saving money. This is user enablement, people. And it's important as a company, such as Rockwell Automation, to continue to be innovative. And today, I can also say we're actually kind of cool. And I like that. Rockwell Automation is a 112-year-old company, but we're young at heart. As you can see from these young faces, actually kind of pretty as well on the stage, that we're continuing to innovate. And to prove that, since we released VantagePoint Mobile a year ago, we've released quarterly. And I'm here to say that this July, we'll be releasing our third quarter release of VantagePoint Mobile. Very exciting. And what's more is, as we learn, as we develop VantagePoint Mobile, we're taking that experience and feeding it back into that toolkit that Kyle mentioned earlier, so that others within our organization can accelerate their mobile solution. And with that, I would like to invite Kyle back up to talk about some of these innovations.
You just blew my mind, Damon. Thanks for that. So as Damon said, We feed back to the toolkit. This is essentially an internal open source model that we're doing at Rockwell, taking the learnings that Damon's group is developing, feeding it back into our toolkit, adding system libraries, and being able to go faster. We can only go faster if more groups join in. The lead into that was we have Ken Platch, a senior engineer leader for our FactoryTalk Batch product, and he's here to show you how they've taken the toolkit and the learnings from VantagePoint Mobile and shoved it into Batch Mobile.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, seeing that VantagePoint demo really takes me back to a year ago when we first got our glimpses of the toolkit and what VantagePoint was doing with it. It really opened our eyes in terms of the possibilities of the FactoryTalk Batch product. If you've seen our current HMI visualizations, they're flat. And we knew that, and we had plans to fix that, but our plans were a little flat too. So what we did was we took this toolkit, we did a quick prototype, we talked to the business and marketing teams, and redefined our roadmap. We're now building the next generation modern HMI visualization for our product. We're taking it way beyond the current functionality and doing things we could never do before, like diagnostics, localization, and server administration. At the same time, we're pioneering a lightweight, event-driven web server with Node.js that connects to our existing FactoryTalk services. So we're leveraging our core investment in those services, but now we can scale like we never could before. And as Kyle mentioned, we're doing all this in an open source model internally. We're contributing back both client-side components as well as these connections to our FactoryTalk services. So the more people that work on the toolkit, the better it gets. So let me show you where we are today. What you're seeing on the screen behind me is my laptop in the back that has the FactoryTalk Batch server installed on it, as well as our web server that I mentioned before. It has 3 browser windows open that show the 3 main areas of our application right now: diagnostics, batches, and prompts. But this could easily be on any other piece of glass, as Kyle mentioned, like my phone. And it scales across all devices and all form factors. So what I'm going to do is interact on my phone and show you what we've done. So for those of you not familiar with the FactoryTalk Batch product, the heart of that product is an engine which executes the recipes in your plant. In our example here, we're making ice cream, but you could just as easily be making beer or cookies or shampoo or whatever you're making in your plant. When those recipes execute, they often require operator input, which is what we call a prompt. You might need to enter a set point for one of your equipment phases, or you might need to acknowledge a command, or you might need to sign off on something. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and hold the French vanilla batch. Perhaps I have to make a repair to some equipment. You'll see that the operator prompts associated with that batch recipe disappeared because they're no longer valid because I'm making repairs to this. If I go ahead and restart it, just to reiterate that, those prompts will then reappear on the right-hand side screen because that batch is now running again. So I'm going to switch over to the prompt screen now on my phone, and I'm going to get these batches running again. So I'm going to enter a temperature set point here, maybe 70 degrees. Get that one off. I'm going to hold that temperature for 5 minutes. Good to go. All right, vanilla's running good. Chocolate. Let's see. I need to add some milk to that, and I'll get that going. So you can see how the operator can interact with the system really easily and can work with their plant in this model. It also reiterates the event-driven nature of our system here. You'll see that I didn't have to refresh any of these web browser screens. They're just reacting to those events that are occurring in the batch server. So that's just a quick glimpse of what we've done so far in our few months working with the toolkit. You'll get to see this in real life as part of the FactoryTalk Batch 13 release, which is scheduled for the end of this year. Thanks. Back to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Scott. That's great. His team has taken this toolkit that VantagePoint Mobile pioneered. We released the toolkit internally in January of this year, and they have this working prototype. In fact, the latest sprint information is that we even got more features. So if we want to take a look at that, I'm sure Ken can whip it up on the server after the session. Set the bar high. So that was a live demo of a product that took the toolkit and in less than 6 months has a mobile UI that is more than just mobile. It's not just about supervisors doing trends. It's not just about managers accessing the systems. That's targeted right at the operator. And being able to perform two-way functions in a secure environment using the toolkit is just amazing. I always ask myself that perhaps mobile isn't just mobile anymore. So you'll notice we have a blank spot in the top left. We got one more product to talk about, who's taken the toolkit, and it's FactoryTalk Viewpoint, led by Sharon Billy, our global product manager. And what they've done is taken the toolkit for our industry-leading ViewSC and ViewME HMI SCADA solution and been able to span multiple different form factors, including iOS and Android. And she's here to tell you all about it, so I'll just give it to her.
Thank you, Kyle. So Viewpoint's been around for a while, but we're working on our next release, and we have a lot of exciting things to talk about today, and I'll just get started. So a little bit of background, what is FactoryTalk View? FactoryTalk View is an extension of FactoryTalk View SE and ME. It allows users to see and interact with their HMI screens using a web browser. And here's the exciting part for our next release. We will be shipping version 8.10 this fall with displays rendered in HTML5. So what this means is we can move beyond the support of the desktop browser and onto a range of mobile devices, including iOS and Android. We've taken this one step further because of our conversion to HTML5. We're able to take this one step further and adopt the toolkit that Kyle's been talking about to something we call Viewpoint Mobile. This is just the beginning of the journey of Viewpoint Mobile, but it will allow our customers to begin defining a unique experience for their mobile HMI. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but first let's talk about how we create Viewpoint content. So when you create Viewpoint content, you use FactoryTalk View Studio just as you would for your HMI. You create screens, you publish them using a web browser, publishing wizard, and then you look at them using the web browser. And I have a demo that will walk us through the process of creating a screen, making it Viewpoint ready, and then viewing it on Viewpoint. So let's start that demo. So here I am in FactoryTalk View Studio. I want to build a screen. I'm adding content to the screen. I'm adding text. I'm linking it to the controller. I am adding objects, adding images, global objects, linking them, doing a quick test run, and there you go. And for those of you who make HMI screens on a regular basis, you know it's always that quick and easy. So creating Viewpoint content is even easier, and I mean that. So you bring up the web browser, which is the publishing wizard. You select the application from which you'd like to publish screens, and you select which screens you'd like to publish. You don't have to select every screen in the application. In this case, I'm just selecting a subset. And then you click the Publish button, and the system converts it into something that a web browser can read. And that brings us to step 3, is viewing the application just using a web browser. There's no software installed. And you can see that the screens are displayed just as you made them in View Studio. They're animated with data, and the operator is able to navigate through and see different screens. Now, when we talk about Viewpoint Mobile enabling users to have a different experience, here's what I mean. So I'm bringing up a separate browser to take a look at Viewpoint Mobile. And then you'll see that I'm presented with a list of screens. It's the navigation hierarchy of the screens that I've published, and they're organized by area. The framework is also responsive, so if I resize it for a tablet per se, the framework adapts. And when I select a screen, it's displayed within that framework. So that's my favorite dashboard screen. Now let's take a look at what this looks like on a tablet, or what this would look like if you were using your tablet. So on my tablet device, I'm presented with the list of screens that have been published for the Viewpoint application. I'm able to drill down. I'm running version 8.10 of Viewpoint. I'm able to select the folders and drill down to see the screens inside. And there's a breadcrumb line on the top that lets me go back to previous navigation. And if I select a screen, it's displayed within the framework. And because of that breadcrumb line on top, I can go back and select another screen. And so previously, or I guess with the existing Viewpoint, is the operator has access to whatever navigation you give them. And so with the mobile framework, I'm able to select screens because the navigation is already there. I don't have to build that myself. And they're my favorite dashboard screen. So let's look at the exact same application on a phone. And you'll see that the framework has adapted to the phone. I'm running version 8.10 of Viewpoint on the phone. And I'm presented with the same navigation, the same type of navigation, but it's adjusted for the phone. And instead of the breadcrumb tree, I have that the little arrow on top that lets me go back. And when I select a screen, it's also displayed within that framework. And then you'll see that these screens have been thoughtfully created for the smaller device in mind. And so now that we are able to support the smaller devices, we really want our customers to start thinking about content that is relevant for users of those small devices. We can certainly take a big screen and scrunch it down to a phone. Viewpoint does that really well, but I don't think anybody really wants that. So if you take a look at this screen, I hope you remember it. This is the one that we created very easily in View Studio in the beginning. So what I've talked about today is really just the beginning of Viewpoint Mobile. This is the first step. We have a lot of exciting features that we want to add to this mobile framework, but the very first step is getting this into your hands later this fall with version 8.10. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. That was mind-blowing. The speed at which you developed that, using no controls in front of you, was amazing. Magic. I think the point here, though, is Viewpoint has taken the next step for mobilizing HMI systems and bringing our flagship HMI SCADA solution, USE, into the modern world. So much so that as we progress, we are no longer calling the MFT the Mobile Foundation Toolkit. We're calling it the Modern Foundation Toolkit. This is the way software is built. And when you think about user interfaces that enable users to do things differently on any piece of glass, being portable, whether it be extending systems, having operator functions, or information across the personas in your plant, across the roles, it's much more than mobile. So let's look at the value these three products deliver. VantagePoint is enabling those users, reducing the cost of curiosity to literally zero. Anybody with a device can connect into VantagePoint, no matter the browser. You're not stuck on using IE7 with a certain patch. And it's responsive and conducive for that device. Lots of our customers have said it's expanding their area of influence as they connect their enterprise. Nothing but good stuff. Making more and more people productive by giving them data. And also, a tidbit from that is our customers are telling us they can deploy systems in a much faster way. They can get the data into VantagePoint from any source, present the data to the user, give them a blank canvas, and it's so conducive that they don't even need training to create their own displays. Think about time to value. Think about increased, faster return on investment. Batch is taking and pioneering using this technology to replace their entire user interface and what you've seen today, as well as their administration side. Two-way controls, lightweight Node.js server on top, operator functions, all backed into the toolkit. And Viewpoint is extending access across devices and starting with a very intuitive way to navigate so you don't have to waste screen real estate to put big buttons to navigate around your HMI system. And they got a lot of features in the pipeline, but we want to get that in the hands of our users. And as Sharon said, we're launching this fall with that product. So this is a spherical mobile world. We've moved beyond that grainy picture from the V2 rocket. We've moved into the blue marble, and we're not slowing down. FactoryTalk Asset Center, also part of the FactoryTalk portfolio, has just started, literally last month, on designing their user functions that they're going to bring to market later this year using the toolkit. Particular features here are viewing logs, searching archives, running schedules, exciting stuff that they're moving towards. And we see FactoryTalk Asset Center as a premier product on the market that, of course, works great in the Rockwell ecosystem, but also outside the ecosystem. And also, we've been hearing more and more from customers that they're adopting Asset Center to help reduce the risk and the risk of security issues, as well as getting back on the feet when machines go down. So Mohit Singhai is here today. He'll be at the mobile booth, and track him down if you want to know more about FactoryTalk Asset Center. So some might say that's enough for mobile. That's enough for us here at Rockwell. And of course, it isn't enough. There's a fourth dimension at mobile that we wanted to talk about today. And here at TechED, you're the first to hear what we believe the fourth dimension is. We believe the fourth dimension, we have to think outside even the spherical world. This is the place where we can get mobile productivity to everyone with no friction in between. Zero friction. Download and go. And our team of designers, engineers, and product leaders across Rockwell Automation have thought a lot about this, how we enter this world, how we pioneer the definition of the fourth dimension of mobile. And we came up with a simple why. What are we here to do in the fourth dimension? 8 words. Trust me, we had pages of what we wanted to do. Simplifying it down to 8 words was a very hard exercise. But at the end of the day, we want to provide tools, apps, to be frictionless for every role to be used every day. And we believe this is going to bring the productivity into double digits on the increase the productivity to double digits. I jokingly say internally, from the janitor to the CEO, every role is a target on how we can improve their mobility or improve their productivity using mobile tools. And we can only enter this fourth dimension because of the pre-work that we've done with the tech stack and our products that we'll continue to do and revolutionize our user interfaces and pioneer innovations there. And we're only capable to go in the fourth dimension because we've been adopting new technologies and Toolkit. And our teams are really innovating, but also inventing in the fourth dimension. So how do we intend to do it? We have 3 pillars. To get to every persona in your plant, to get to every role in your plant, we need to deliver value that's flexible based off their choice, based off their work. An operator in the paint shop is not going to perform the same task as an operator in the weld shop. Likewise, a field service worker, likewise, a CEO. So we need to innovate on persona-based workflows. The second one is hybrid connectivity. Many of our workers in their surveys and the analysts tell us over 70% of industrial workers have a phone in their pocket, personal or company owned. But in a lot of cases in our environment that's unique to industrial is that you can't assume a nice 4-bar connection to the internet, or no matter how good your Wi-Fi system is, you can't assume it's always there. You're standing beside a mixer, It fires up, it provides interference, my connection's dead. We have to do something differently. We have to look at mobility as beyond just being a client in the connected enterprise. We have to innovate, and we have to invent here. And the last one I keep talking about is zero friction. This is a significant item holding back mobility's potential in industry. The time it takes to see the return on investment to install any type of automation system, our why is to say, can we bring that down to 0? Set the bar high, see where we get. The fourth dimension is all about experimentation, and we're not afraid of failing in the fourth dimension, because that means we learn. Another epiphany our teams had was the cell phone in your pocket isn't inferior anymore to the desktop computers that are on the shop floor or that you have in your desk. They have 8 cores in the Galaxy S6. All of us are running a supercomputer in our pocket. 2, 3 gig of RAM. It seems like a shame to only use this device as a client. You open a web browser, you launch a client, you're using 1 or 2% of the capability of this device. Can we use more? This device is packed with sensors we've never had before in someone's hand in industry. Can we leverage that? Can we leverage that to do the 3 pillars: persona-based workflows, provide zero friction, and hybrid connectivity? So let's go back to the Purdue Enterprise reference architecture. When you look at the architecture, we look at the fourth dimension as blowing up the Purdue model, as crossing all the layers, not 100 apps from Rockwell, not 10 apps from Rockwell for every product, 1 app. And in that app, we do innovative stuff to go beyond just a client. So people have asked us what our app strategy is, and we've decided to wade into this fourth dimension in a very innovative way with what we call the Rockwell Automation App Platform. And this app platform exists in the app. So we're turning the phone into a server and a client in one. And we're just starting to tell people about this project that we're working on, because our goal with this is to go back to the why, to eliminate the initial friction so people can download it, get initial productivity, and as the ecosystem, as your connected enterprise ecosystem gets built out, it just gets better. We want to harness the power of the supercomputer in your pocket, and we want to innovate. So this is an active project going on in Rockwell right now, and we're tackling 4 major items. First off, making a supersized big phone. I'm joking, we're not making a phone, okay? Looking at the app platform as a modular server, where modules click in, whether they be product modules or what we call app modules. These app modules would exist inside the app instantly when you download it. It has opportunistic content. The key part there is opportunistic. As you connect the systems, as you disconnect from the systems, it's in the background getting content from Rockwell products. To do that, we have to put a database on board. We have to run a Node.js engine in device. There's lots of really cool technical challenges we have, but our initial sprints in the last 6 months are proving very promising. At the end of the day, turning the phone from a dumb client into a smart node is one of the big goals, and to provide instant functions. Where engineering really looks at me and cringes is when I tell them it's got to be cross-platform, iOS, Android, or Windows. We like to set the bar high. We can't find this off the shelf. And our teams are working very hard to invent some of this technology. So let's give a little bit of contextualization to one of the use cases. One of the many use cases we're developing to. And we tried to keep it simple. And the point here is to drive features and functions to that platform engine, and then for us to expand apart into other features that apply to different roles. So one of the key things we learned from our customers when we started talking to them about this is collaboration. There really is no robust system to collaborate at the plant floor. And people use consumer-type solutions, right? WhatsApp, iMessage, Weibo, whatever. How do we enable two users to communicate directly in a plant floor environment where communication could be non-existent? They don't have a stood-up network for Wi-Fi yet. So we're experimenting with the use case of one user simply sending a message over to the other user, wants the latest trend. He's not connected to the system, but the app platform opportunistically finds a paired member over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi Direct. Sends the message. The other gentleman is connected to the Wi-Fi network that can access the trend graph. He posts down the trend graph, sends the trend graph back. So that opportunistic engine being able to provide hybrid connectivity in the group setting. It's a pretty simple concept. There's really important elements here, though, is that you're not sending the message out to someone else outside your organization so they can own the IP. And as Frank said in the keynote, there's lots of businesses that you're their business. Your information is their business. So providing this in an isolated plant floor environment, peer-to-peer, in an opportunistic way. Now, you might ask me to say, well, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi only work 50 to 100 feet across from each other. That's why we're experimenting with mesh technology, that if all the users, including machines, are in that paired group, the messages hop in a secure encrypted way across all the users to get to their destination. Opportunistically, as you walk by the user, it replicates in the background, getting to the end user. And even using machines in that chain or devices. So there's no initial server to install. You download the app, and because the server is the platform and the platform's in device, zero friction. Again, something is a use case that we're driving our engine to explore. So we're happy to keep information coming about what we're doing internally. And we call this portion of our mobile initiative Project Stanton. Project Stanton is a throwback to Dr. Stanton Allen, who was an original founder of Allen Bradley, which evolved the course into Rockwell Automation today. And innovation was the core part of the creation of the company, and we feel it matches our efforts in the fourth dimension very well. So now you have an excuse to go get a Twitter account and follow Project_Stanton for more information as we innovate and invent stuff over the next year. Going back to the spherical world, we encourage you to look at VantagePoint Mobile. VantagePoint is a product that provides tremendous visibility across all roles. And with mobile being iterated every quarter, we continuously add features and value to increase your investment. Of course, FactoryTalk Batch coming out later this year with R13. A great step forward in using mobile technology beyond just information graph, but two-way operator functions. And then finally, Viewpoint. Jumping into the HTML5, any device view with enabling users using the Toolkit will be out in the fall. So I really hope you took the session in, understood what our mobile strategy is, and understand what we can deliver today for you as our customers, and have a great rest of TechEd. Thank you.